Welcome to the Ascension Stargate Podcast Series, where we discuss the aspects of human consciousness, spirituality, metaphysics and philosophy, energy, extraterrestrial life, science, biology, and the alchemy of higher states of beingness, all from a heart-centered perspective. I am your host and guide, Glenn Mate, and let's begin our journey. All right, hello, everybody. And welcome to the Ascension Stargate Podcast Series. I am Glenn Mate, your host and guide. And in this episode, I am so honored to share a personal friendship with my most esteemed colleague, Melissa Feick, who is just an amazing intuitive. She is an Akashic record reader. She is Akashic record healer. She can clear, and she has a multitude of different aspects about her. And there's nobody better to speak about Melissa than Melissa herself. Melissa, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here. I appreciate all that you said. That's really sweet. So a little bit about me. I had a download to use the Galactic Akashic Records back in about 2015, 2016. And it was a full download, and they told me how to utilize these other records that no one has really ever spoken about. At the time, I thought it was the records on the quantum, which I still know it's on the quantum, but now I recognize it's the galactic, because now that's in the collective consciousness of the Galactic Akashic Records. But back then, it really was not. It was just coming online. And when they showed it to me, I was like, wait a minute, why the Akashic Records? I kind of don't want to work with past lives. And they said, no, we need to transcend the lower frequencies so that people can anchor in and align completely with their higher consciousness. So that's my mission here. My mission is the ascension, and to help people clear and really transcend those lower states of consciousness so that they can fully integrate, embody, and anchor in their higher self. So they're living more on purpose, more on mission, and feel more in love with life.
So who doesn't want more love in their life, right? In this day and age,
I hope everyone
we
wants
need all
that.
the love that we can get, right? You know, you said something about the Akashic Records and the Galactic Akashic Records. Could you just expand that a little bit about maybe the basics of what the Akashic Records are and a little bit about the difference between the two so we all have a better understanding of that from your perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is something that is more current. Like I said, I would say very few people are actually reading the galactic records. Most of them are reading the earth records. So there is an imprint of energy, and it holds all the information. Most people know the Akasha or the Akashic records as holding your past lives. So those are the earth records. The earth records hold all the information, all the frequencies and evolutions that have happened on the earth plane from, in Lemuria to Atlantis to now, and in the future as well. So those earth records hold all the information. It's a library, basically, for lack of a better understanding. So those records are kind of what I say, they're kind of written in stone. So they're already been written, and they're already placed, and they are that energy. Even if with parallel lives, it's still written. So it is, because we live in the duality frequency here on the earth. There's the duality energies, and those things, they actually create a more dense energy system, which is why those records are more dense. And you can tap into those records and find past lives of your family, past lives and contracts and things like that. So when I was shown the galactic records, they were literally showing me this living system. And I was like, I've never seen this, like the way that you're showing me. And when I mean show, people think I'm just clairvoyant. I'm everything. So I come, Spirit told me around the same time that I'm telepathic. And what they mean by telepathic is how, when people say I communicated with Jesus or I communicated with ETs, they have this whole experience. It's a whole visceral experience. That's what I have.
Mm.
So when I experience something, I don't just see it, I'm experiencing it mentally, physically, emotionally. All my clairs, audio, clairvoyant, claircognizant, clairsentient. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. So when they showed it to me, I was like, these are living records. And they were like, yes, this is a living frequency. This is the point of creation. And if we can transcend the karmic patterns that are sitting at the quantum or at the galactic records level, we can actually transcend lifetimes of things for the human so that we can accelerate the ascension faster. And I said, cool. And I downloaded my whole book within that time. Now, it took me a couple years to unpack it, true,
Mm.
um, and write it. And it was definitely dense, but so simplified because I kept my when I speak to spirit, I always ask things like, how can we do things faster and deeper, faster and deeper, faster and deeper? And that's what, and I have to say that people say to me that the book has changed their lives or whatever else, and that's my mission here, is to really help people ascend and raise their vibration.
And how important that is that we get the right information for us, because in this day and age of the internet and social media, there's just so much information out there, but it's not necessarily relevant and it's not necessarily wholly true in its precise form. We're getting these little bits and pieces, and we're working with algorithms of social media, and we're not necessarily getting the whole enchilada, so to speak, of the information. So I so appreciate you spending the time to unpack all of that information, because I understand the magnitude of that experience of getting an informational download that completely almost sends you into a whirlwind temporarily until you understand all of the facets that come within that informational download. It takes time to absorb and integrate and then to regurgitate it in a way that is understandable. So that's just so remarkable, and thank you for taking that journey and path. It's so important to us when there's people like myself that, like, I want to know more about who I really am, and you're providing the tools for us to do that. So that's super, super important.
Wait, Glenn, I have to say something. So what you were talking about, like with social media, I call it drive-through spirituality. So if you don't eat McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or whatever, all those drive-throughs or Dunkin' Donuts, unless you just get coffee, which people are sometimes obsessed with that. But that drive-through spirituality, it actually can confuse the mind, and the ego will take that and then kind of stop it. It's kind of like, well, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. Or they just like pick a piece of this and pick a piece. And I think that's important, because I think that what I love about nowadays is that there's so much available. And for any spiritual person, discernment and awareness is the key to your spiritual evolution. So drive through spirituality.
Right. So yeah, it's like getting the buffet table of spirituality when you visit the social media. And it's up to the responsibility of the viewer, of the reader, to take that pause to think about, how does this relate to me? And is this a subject matter that I'm ready to deep a little deeper to get into, to find the totality of that? Because just these little bits and pieces don't necessarily serve us. Just as you said, they become more confusing, or there's too many redirections for us to really focus on what we really need to do to have a, a bountiful ascension. So thank you for pointing that out. That was super important. And I want to take a little bit of time for you to explain your personal journey. Now, you said you had this download in 2023, and that took some time for you to get that through. But I know, through our conversations, our personal conversations, that your journey started much, much before that time. Would you just share a little bit about how things started to evolve for you? And that helps us to relate better to our own journeys.
Totally. So actually, I downloaded my book. Well, it was a download that came through in like 2015, 2016. So I can't remember exactly when. It feels like forever ago. That took me a while to publish the book. But so actually, I've been one of those people who that at a young age, I was very spiritual, but more Catholic at the time, but not super Catholic. I just had understandings of things. I could read people really well. I was really good at that. When I was in high school, I started to learn how to do astrology charts, and then I went to college and I just really took that to another level and just started to read astrology charts. Don't ask me to do it now. I'm not very good at it anymore. But that's where my spiritual awakening started. And and then of course I've read all the books and I started looking into spirituality at a pretty young age, especially at that time period. There was no internet and it was all books and I was looking for teachers. And so I think I was always on the path, but I would just know things. Like I remember in high school, a friend's sister was like, there's something wrong with my female area. There's something wrong with my female area. And I said to my friend, she keeps saying that she's going to create something there. And she did. Now, at 14 says something like that?
Right.
And it's not that I'm special. It's just that I had this, I know now, right? When you look backward, you're like, I know now I've had a mission here. And doesn't mean I wasn't a mess up, doesn't mean I wasn't a party girl, doesn't mean that I didn't have my moments. I was still a human. And I also had just this weird awareness. And I was really outside the norm. So it was, you don't spirit people say this to me all the time, like I don't have a community, I don't know where I fit in. I've felt that way my whole life, and it's because of that. I've always been the one who was different, and that's okay. I mean, I learned how to figure some things out, and I don't really care. But I've gotten to the age where I'm like, who cares what people think of me? They like me or they don't. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's really about us. I'm here to help those who are in alignment.
So as you're moving through your journey and you have this knowingness of information, did you ever find that it might have, like, your bridge into spirituality might have created something for you that was like a hardship or difficulty? Did it ever pose like like a she's different type of scenario, or Melissa's got this thing going on? Did you ever experience anything like that?
Oh, of course not, Glenn. I mean, no catalysts in my life. Yeah, right. No, that's the opportunity for us to go, wait a minute, what's wrong with me? Like, not what's wrong, because there's nothing wrong with anyone. I don't believe people need to be fixed. I don't believe people need to be healed. I think we need to transcend those frequencies that are in alignment with who we choose to be. And it's a process. It's not an automatic thing. Oh gosh, I've had many catalysts. But I would say my emotional um, roller coaster when I'm a Sagittarius and Scorpio rising, so I have like I'm deep and emotions are real for me. And one thing, I'm very, very, very sensitive. And I've heard that my whole life. Well, you're too sensitive, you cry. But what that was really my superpower. And what I realized is I want to be sensitive because I can read, I can energetically understand things. So yeah, I've had the catalysts like everyone in high school. We've all had that catalyst. That's
Mhm.
always the fun one. Middle school, high school, everyone, even the most popular to the one who like skips school every day, and I was one of five children. So I had a weird upbringing because I was the youngest. And I was really raised as an only child, but then also the youngest. So that was an interesting couple catalysts in there. And then I was married and had children. There's a lot of catalysts in there. And then I was living in a place where there were a lot of people. I was doing my spiritual work pretty early on. And I wasn't really telling people because people, they'd go, "What do you do?" And I say, well, first I was like, I do angel readings. And they do this. Right. And then I was like, but I'm not going to hide who I am. Or I'd say I was a spiritual teacher. So, you know, catalysts to me are opportunities for growth. And I don't really believe in lessons. Way back in the day when I had a client, I even know exactly where I was and exactly who the client was. This is how much this impacted me. uh she was coming in, she's like, I had this lesson and this lesson, this and spirit goes, nope, those are not lessons, those are experiences. It's the
Mm.
spin you put on it that makes it difficult lesson or something you're moving through. And how they showed it to me was every lesson seems to have a really negative connotation to it, right? So I said, well, I want to learn the lesson where I meet the partner of my dreams and I make $1 million and I can share it with the world and I can share the message and I can help other people do that. Like, that's what, hello, I want that lesson. So, I think that people see the world as difficult. And when you start to be aware of yourself and you go, wait a minute, what's inside of me is creating this reality, instead of going, you're doing this to me, they're doing that to me. I learned that super early on, very, very early on. And I've always looked at, if it triggers me, it's mine. So if it upsets me, it's mine. I have to look at my side of things.
Mm. And that's such an important lesson for everybody today, is that when we find ourselves triggered, we're merely looking in the mirror, right? Something is being reflected back to us to say, hello, I'm here. Would you like to address me, or I'll come back again to haunt you in a loving way? And if we don't necessarily receive that message, it comes back in a pattern, in a cycle, and sometimes it just kind of grows, right? And it's not necessarily the lesson, but the experience becomes more expansive and deeper. So, a great tool to remember, which, thank you so much for bringing up, is that when we find ourselves triggered, that we take the pause and find the emotion that we can resonate with and identify it. And then just expand that a little bit and sit with it and find out, what do I need to do next? Right? What might be the appropriate step for me that would provide me self healing? And that's also something that you do as a transformational coach to kind of help people through this process, because it in the moment of that uh, triggeredness, of the heat of that emotion, it's tough for us to ground and sometimes really see what we need to see, to look at, to address. And having a transformational coach such as what you do can so lovingly provide us the right pathway to figure out the little intricacies to kind of get us back to the person who we really authentically want to be. So I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about all of the special gifts that you do and provide, such as, transformational coaching and light code activations and galactic record readings and all of the beautiful gifts that you've brought to the world. How do you integrate with all of these different gifts for your clients and for all of the people that you interact with?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. You know, recognize that we're human.
Hmm.
There's this idea in spirituality that you will come to a place, and it's possible that's what enlightenment is, that's what all the gurus talk about, that's all about, expansion, and so there are people out there who are living in that higher state of consistently. And most of us are human, and it's okay to be human, and
Yes.
it's okay to have a human moment.
Yes.
And like you said, like, okay, I'm feeling this. So how I try to share with my clients is I want you to say, okay, I'm feeling angry right now. And it's okay. Because the moment you say it's okay, it actually dissipates the energy a little bit more. And then you can look at it a little bit deeper. The key is to not look at it like, what did they do to trigger me? Is to say, what within me is creating this. So, when I was downloading this book, what Spirit told me, it was actually the Galactic Akashic Records, but I call everything Spirit because it's just easier. Right? It's like the blanket statement. So, Spirit told me we need to help people transcend the patterns. So if we're trying to just work through, I mean, we've done the karmic wheel for so freaking long, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of coming back and dealing with the same relationships, dealing with the same things. Those, if we get the bigger pattern of anger, of abandonment, of victimization, which is huge in the human experience, if you can transcend a lot of those things, you are actually um, activating lifetimes of transformation in a very short period of time. So, like I feel like I've talked about myself a lot, but um, my mission and my passion is really to support people through their ascension. And the tools that I use are really evolutionary tools that I've used that have evolved. Like even my healing work is evolved tremendously. And I like to work, I like to help people get results. I want to hear, when I started with you, I'm a completely different person than I am now. And I've heard that so many times that I'm like, good, because you now they're on mission. Now they feel their purpose. Now they're manifesting their job or a partner or, a new place, a new experience, all these things, because they're not being in that denser material. Actually, this is interesting. So, a long time ago, Spirit showed me how those dense materials, how they accumulate, obviously, but I would look at this energy of people's like fears, all the lower chakra stuff, and I'm looking at that, and it's so dense, and it's just dense. That's the best word for it.
Mm.
And Spirit said you cannot bring in more of your higher consciousness with all that dense material.
Mm.
So if we can just allow that to dissipate, then we can bring more of that through, which is really, if more people were like that, It activates the Kundalini, it activates the spiritual heart, it activates your connection to spirit and your groundedness, which is always kind of a thing with spiritual people. They're thinking, I need to open these, I need to open these. I'm like, and deal with the mucky stuff too. So, yeah, I think that what people really want, and they don't know, a lot of people don't know that they want this. They feel stuck, they feel unlovable, they feel like they're doing the same thing over and over. They don't know what they want. What most people want is to just feel more in alignment with who they are.
Mm.
And it's hard to understand that, and it's hard to do. Like, I can't snap my fingers and give that to someone, because we are not here. We're here for a reason. We're here to experience the density and creation in a different way. Star seeds are a whole nother part of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if someone comes to you, Melissa, and they say, I've got this denseness and I haven't been able to get over certain triggers and, um, I'm trying to move energy through myself, but I'm just always in here and nothing down here is going on. What might be, like a primary or a simple tool for someone to take in order to start to work with that energy system, those lower chakra points that might need some release? What would you suggest for that?
Awesome. Um, Actually, I do suggest, one of the things I suggest is my divine love meditation.
Mhm.
And it's only because it's all about giving and receiving. And one of the things that light workers and starseeds, their biggest issue is receiving.
Mm.
Giving is super easy, like give, 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 give. But a lot of them are like, well, I need to receive. Like, they don't even know. They're like, well, I haven't given enough, so I can't receive. And that's the flow of the universe. That's one thing. I mean, if you want to know that tool. The other thing is to just be aware. And I my motto is awareness is key.
Mm.
If you're aware, like, okay, this is happening deep inside, start looking at your family karmic patterns. And I don't mean like my mother's an asshole. I mean like the patterns.
Right.
For instance, and I'll just give an example from my own life. Like, my mother, super insecure, like probably one of the most insecure people you'd ever meet. And my sisters, two of them were more insecure, my other one not so much. But and I had that because I was so sensitive. And I was like, oh, I see that insecurity in my mother, and where she's almost disengaged from the world. And she's was a beautiful person, really sweet. She just not outside of her comfort zone,
Mm.
right? And I was like, okay, so what's in me? Like, where is that in me? And now that situation made me feel that, like, I'm in college and I'm like, I'm drinking because I'm feeling like I have to do that to make myself like feel comfortable with a lot of people around, because I'm kind of an introvert extrovert. And then I'm like, okay, well, what is it that I'm trying to overcome? What am I trying to compensate for? When you start asking those questions from the family line, you can actually transcend them easier. So when I work with people, I clear the mental, physical, emotional bodies, the DNA, the cellular memory, um, your genetic line, which is different from your DNA. It's similar but different, and in the Akashic records on the quantum. So when you clear all of that, you actually, the stories don't matter. Just like when you asked me, Glenn,
Mhm.
the catalyst in my life, that was hard for, because I know kind of those stories, but those stories have no pull. Like, I don't feel a big pull toward any story in my life, because I'm not saying, oh, believe me, I'm normal. I have my shit. I am a little wacky sometimes. I'm a human and I love my human. And so I'm not exalted or enlightened by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm very rarely trigger. And but that I have a weird, it's hard for me because I see through a lot quickly,
Hmm.
and it doesn't always make relationships easy.
I know. It's like, oh, there it is. I can see right through all of that. Um, and then you make the decision whether that resonates with you or not.
Yes, yes. And I like people. I love people. I do this because I find humans fascinating.
Right.
That's why I'm so good at like this emotional, psychological, multidimensional transformation because I just find it fascinating. And it's because my starseed stuff, all I witnessed and why I came here.
Well, and that's not even the tip of the iceberg just because I know you. You're such this multi-dimensional light being of love and divine energy that also you're a channel. And maybe our viewers don't know, but you also channel. And that's just another facet of the totality of Melissa. Would you want to talk a little bit about some of the channeling that you do as well?
Yeah, so my channeling, what I love about my like what comes through from the channeling, I have to listen to it all the time because I don't always remember, but it's really about ascension.
Mhm.
And what I'm shown is like light energy, light codes, and how the universe is built through these sacred geometric grids and the grid builders and all these pretty esoteric understandings. Nothing I've ever read, to be honest, nothing I've ever heard, from what I understand. And nobody channels anything unique
Mm.
because if it's in the consciousness, anyone can channel that information. I'm just because I am what I call the adventurer soul.
Mm.
I'm an adventurer soul. So I've lived on a lot of planetary systems. I've traveled multidimensionally. I've worked with, all sorts of star beings, Octurians, and my most current expression was Lyran. And that's what I've brought through more of. And then the Lyran Octurian level. So that's more of what I bring through. But I also have spoken to pretty much most of the um, other multi-dimensional or star systems, let's call it that. And so because of that, I actually, when I channel about, I mean, what other clairvoyants have told me is I have between 500 and 1,000 other beings that are close. And I also work with collective consciousnesses, which are really interesting because when you have to channel a collective consciousness, it's intense energy. But I've always been able to do it. I think everybody is a channel.
Mm.
I think everyone is a channel. Even even the person who doesn't do spirituality or doesn't know anything about it or is super Christian, they channel something. And most of our channels do come through our higher consciousness. It has to, right? So I believe everyone channels because channeling means that you're bringing through information. So it can be inspiration, it can be creativity, it can be just like just like holding a space of love. It can just be cooking a delicious meal. It can, you know, we channel, and when you channel through the heart space, then yummy, right? I mean, that's the most delicious part.
Right. I agree. When we're a channel of something and we're in the present moment within our heart is when the gift just shows itself. And whether it be painting, music, cooking with animals, the land, however it flows out for your specific vessel and your frequency, it's what you know, you're putting back out is what you're receiving in. Those divine inspiration, so to speak, is just wonderful. thank you for sharing that because that's really important for everybody to know about you. And, I'd also like you to share just a little bit about your journey from kind of where you started out in the United States to where you are now, because that's really important.
Yeah. So I grew up on the East Coast and then I went to college in Maryland and then I ended up living in Maryland and I spent most of my life in Maryland. And I was doing all my spiritual work there and raising kids. So I started my spiritual like work when I was pregnant with my son, maybe like my work, not my like before that I was studying and looking into things and yeah, all of those things. But I started doing my work. And so I did everything in Maryland. And then I started doing retreats in Sedona, which
Mm.
is really my love. In 2005 was the first time I took a retreat here in Sedona. I brought 9 people here and we did a retreat. And I was like, and I had never been here before, by the way. That's what that adventurer soul will do. It will go,
Right.
I've never been to Sedona. I want to go there. I'm just going to bring a bunch of people and have them pay for my trip. And I'm going to explore Sedona. That's what happened. And we had, I mean, it was phenomenal. The transformations that happened on those retreats um, are amazing. And then in 2020, um, I decided to move to Sedona. And that was actually the most beautiful experience. It was really the experience of surrender because I really had I mean, Sedona was definitely on my list, but I knew I was no longer to be in Maryland. I was complete there. And I anchored in so much light in the DC area, and I knew that's what I was there for. And not me, Melissa, but like the things I did and the community that I had a big community and a lot of things we all anchored in that light. We all did.
Mm.
Everyone did. But that time was complete. So I moved to actually wasn't even going to buy a house. I was going to just kind of live here for a little while and then Spirit said nope. They staked me in. So I'm literally where my house is and how that synchronicity happened, like how I just surrendered. I'm literally in like the middle of like 6 or 7 ley lines. Like I'm literally at the heart of the ley line, which is really powerful. But that's why when I do activations, even online, it you could feel them, feel the activations. So yeah, Sedona is a gift and I'm grateful to have that in my
Mm.
life. That's for it. Yeah.
And you've been there for years and years now and
Yeah.
continue to use that energetic hotspot to broadcast your work and also to receive in all of the new information. And you've also had years of doing your own retreats, in which you've got one coming up really soon. So, can you tell me a little bit about this event that's coming up on September 27th, 28th, and 29th?
Yeah. So I'm really excited. It's called Sacred Magical Journey. And really, it's about utilizing the energies of Sedona because people come here and they're like, I went to the rock and I saw this or that, but they're not really they don't understand how to calibrate the energy field to help them recalibrate themselves. And it does sometimes happen a little bit automatically, but if you can accelerate it. So that's part of it using the vortex. All of Sedona is a vortex.
Mm.
It's not just in one location, which people like to say. It's at Bell Rock, which I live right near. It's at Courthouse, which I live right near. Or it's at, this place or that place. No, the whole town. I'm telling you, this place is a vortex of energy. It's and portals move in Sedona, which is really fascinating. And there's all this underground cities, this crystalline cities, and then there's also tons of galactic experiences. So, what we'll do on the retreat is really activate your energy, and do a lot of healing. We're going to do healing. We're going to activate and raise your vibration, clearing out lower states of consciousness, lower energies, and also helping you recalibrate and realign yourself to you, which is really, nobody needs another clone. We need to recalibrate frequencies within ourselves to help the collective. We all need this for the ascension. So it's individual and for the collective always. So on this retreat, I will be doing ceremonies. So I definitely live with the sacredness of the land. So we'll do some Native American ceremonies that are in alignment. We will do some galactic journeys, which are super fun. So I mean, some people might call it a meditation, but I call it a journey because I'm taking you places. I'm bringing you to new heightened levels of you. And then also, we'll be using light code frequencies, sacred geometry. In the space that I'm doing it has a high frequency and is on also on a lot of ley lines. And we'll be creating a sacred grid in there. And it's just really about holding a higher vibration, because if you can be in that frequency for 3 days, that will shift your energy. Even when you go back home, you'll still be holding a different frequency. And that is really the space, because I believe that if you hold the correct sacred space and then activate the people within it. So we'll be activating light codes. I should explain this a little bit. So within your cellular structure, you have photons, light, literally light. And what we do is I work with the grid masters, and they bring through light energies. I work with the ascension councils and the ascension masters, and they bring, not ascended, ascension masters. They bring through light codes. And then we create the sacred space to activate and to open up that with the Shushana, which is that hara line, that line from your crown to your root and your root to your crown. And that will open up some Kundalini. I'm not saying you're going to be fully activated, but it will open up Kundalini work. And then community. So within a very intimate group, you have an opportunity for community. And that's something that's very sacred. So when I activate the space and activate how the energy is going to move within the space, part of that is for vulnerability and community. And that is when we have the opportunities to really shift out of a lot of old and bring in a lot of new. And, and of course there's like the main, things like ceremonies and meditations, and I probably do some channeling. I do go with the flow a little bit, meaning I do have an itinerary, but if spirit says no, we're going to do this, my itinerary's gone.
Right. Boom.
Because I trust spirit more than I trust me. So.
Wow. There's just a ton of value in all of that explanation, from taking advantage of the actual land to having activations, going through the guided meditations, which are journeys, and taking the value of all of that energy moving through and within you and activating your light body, activating the light codes within you, and triggering the better parts of your DNA to open up and to embody all of that information. That's just a ton of value that you're giving to everybody. And, again, I appreciate you for all of your investment and time and work to create this expansive experience for people to not only spiritually, but to viscerally experience the energetic presence of who you are and to better understand the power that exists within you. So it's just a beautiful orchestration that you've put together. How can we find this amazing retreat. So where would we go?
It's under melissafeick.com. So it's the way you spell my name, Feick. And you'll see Mystical Journey, but I'm trying to think of what the URL is. I think it's slash magical, sacred, magical. I can't remember what it's. I can't remember my
We'll
URL.
make sure that it gets onto this podcast. We'll have the right information, so you can click, you can find it, you can cut and paste. We want to make sure that you have this information. So if you're interested in spending time with Melissa and me, because I'm going to be there, I'm grateful for that.
Fun.
So this will be such a magical experience. And again, thank you so much for putting this together. I know how much it takes to create such an event like this, the time, the energy, the effort, all of the little details that it takes. So thank you for that. Melissa, is there anything else that you would like to expand on today that I may have missed, or that you'd just like to share with our community?
Beautiful. Thank you. So I will say that if you are watching this after the retreat or something, I do a lot of other things. So I do readings, online events, and so those are always on my website. So that's why it's just easier to go there. And if I were to say anything, I really know that every single person who's on the spiritual path, whether you just are dabbling or you've been on it a long time, everyone is here for their own evolution. And even though we talk about ascension and raising the vibration and being more of service, all of those are important. And also be kind to yourself and understand that you are going through your own journey and that you have your own reasons for being here. And you don't have to know them to do your work. You don't have to understand it to live more in alignment with who you are, because you have gifts, you have abilities, and you have connection. Nobody is cut off from their connection to their higher self. Everyone has access to their higher self, and everything comes through your higher self or higher consciousness, everything. So everyone has that availability. And if you wake up tomorrow and somebody else says, I now feel this way, they have that availability too, because we are accelerating and jumping a lot of timelines. So it's just time. It's time.
Melissa, thank you for that special and beautiful message. I so appreciate and honor you. It's just an honor to be a friend, to be a colleague, and to continue to get to work with you in so many different aspects and so many different beneficial ways for people. So thank you for who you are. I love you dearly, and I send you much love. And thank you for spending some time with me today to talk about one of the most beautiful things, and that's you. So thank you.
Please. Thank you so much. No, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you too. We'll see you soon on the next podcast. Have a wonderful day and a blessed day. Thank you.